we are to celebrate your 10th anniversary in May, 10 years of Ana Ono. That's a huge accomplishment. And as a fellow business founder, I especially find that impressive.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you and share with your community and share back with ours, because I really just love what you're doing. And you're absolutely right. 10 years is a very big feat in small business.
Yeah. I watched your fashion show from September's New York Fashion Week last year, and it was just so moving. The variety of bodies that we saw in that fashion show, and it was just palpable the amount of joy and triumph that the women in the show felt. Just looking at their bodies, you could also get a small inkling of the amount of like pain and loss that they've been through. So I'd love to hear just a little bit about that fashion show and who those models were.
Yeah. So thank you for taking the time to check that out, because I think one of my proudest moments is what we're able to accomplish at New York Fashion Week. And the reality of it is that we partner with an organization called Cancer Culture, and we're always working to like unearth or discover another hidden secret about breast cancer. And I think something that I've always looked back at as I created Ana Ono was so much of what we do is answering questions from people not really actually understanding what is breast cancer. And I know that sounds kind of crazy to say that in today's, era of social media and oversharing and all of these things that we do. But, we talk a lot about breast cancer. We see a lot of pink ribbons, but like we don't really see the pure trauma and body changes that people that get diagnosed go through. And that is just such a huge moment for us to kind of say, like, yes, we can be strong. Yes, we can be beautiful. Yes, we can put ourselves out there. But underneath all of this, there's scars, there's missing nipples, there's missing breasts, there's radiation burns, there's, port marks and port scars. And it's just like, that's the life of a cancer patient. And, we get the opportunity to do that at New York Fashion Week and really share in stories from early stage to late stage, metastatic breast cancer, which is the only breast cancer that kills. And we had, an 18-year-old on the runway, and we had a 76-year-old on the runway. It's such a breath of like, this is the community. These are the people that are impacted. And, getting to share all of those unique stories is just really, really a special moment that we get to share with everybody.
Absolutely. The way those women were proudly bearing their scars, I think, was so moving, because I don't have any personal experience with breast cancer in my family or with myself. And it's totally true that people are not aware of everything that these women go through. And also seeing the way that your body is left after that. And it's a huge range. You could have no breasts or one breast or prosthetics or implants. So it was very eye-opening and very beautiful. And my favorite moment was the woman who shot a bow like an Amazonian woman, which, like, I don't know if it's true or not, but they burned off one breast to be able to be better archers. So I think that was just such a amazing way to reframe that. So let's go back to how this all started. You were diagnosed with breast cancer when you were 27 years old. And I can't imagine what that's like. When we're in our 20s, we feel invincible. And can you tell me about what that moment was like?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it perfectly, right? I mean, I got diagnosed at the age of 27 and 20. Back then, I didn't even know that young women got breast cancer. I was never educated or informed in that way. We kind of always see like an, more mature individual, in the billboards and on the pamphlets and in the commercials. And to think at 27 years old that you can be diagnosed with breast cancer was just a huge question mark for me. Like, how did this even happen? And finding, a little tiny lump completely on accident, because I was not I am not a beacon to say I was doing a monthly breast exam. I was not checking my chest. I was just in the shower checking on a pimple that was in my armpit, and just the top part of my wrist rubbed up against this little almost pea-sized lump. And I just thought to myself, I was like, that wasn't there before. What is this? And I ended up calling the doctor, and one thing led to the other. And I got diagnosed with early stage breast cancer that was ER positive and HER2 positive. It was just such a shocking time in my life. It was like everything was just beginning. I was engaged to get married. Our wedding was planned in 3 months. I was in the best shape I've ever been in my entire life. I was eating healthy. Like, I was doing all of the right things. And then this, the whole world exploded.
And you also have a fashion background. Is that the world that you were in at that time?
Yeah, so I studied fashion at Savannah College of Art and Design, and I started my career in New York City. So I've always been a fashion designer, and it was just like this weird cosmic space where this horrible, awful cancer diagnosis that completely changed my life forever was also combined with my dream and my passion, which was fashion. And, it sucks because I would never have thought I would have gotten here in this way, but I did eventually, get to what my dream was.
Yeah, I guess it's a blessing and a curse. I don't know if you can look at it that way, but it's part of your journey, and here you are surviving and creating something that wouldn't have ever existed if it weren't for you, for what happened to you. So can you go through what the process was for you for from the moment of diagnosis and the treatment that you went through, and how did you get yourself to a healthy enough and secure enough, solid enough place to be able to launch a business?
Yeah, it's kind of weird thinking back, to all of this time. I mean, I often say to myself and to others that, like, comparing my entrepreneurial journey is like not fair. And the reason why I say it's not fair is because once I was able to get through all of my surgeries, and, I amputated both of my breasts to save my life, and I chose to rebuild them. And, like, I was constantly like under construction, like my hair was growing back, my eyebrows were growing back. I was like dealing with this like funky nippleless chest. It was just like this world where I was like, what is life now? Like, who am I? How am I putting myself back together? And I really recognized that, like, something that was causing me pain and distress every single day was that I couldn't dress myself. And it sounds like so simple, but it was so complex. Like, at that moment of time in my life was like the only thing I could wear was a sports bra. And it was like going to work in a fashion industry, in a fashion environment, and like showing up to boardrooms and like having like neon green sports bra straps like stick out of my shirt was like not the right move. Like, I'm trying to advance my career, I'm trying to be professional, and I'm like, there, everybody's sitting around going like, does this girl like never know how to change her clothes after the gym? And I just felt like I was like losing myself through so much of this like cancer patient process. Like, just the little bits and pieces of me was like slipping away. And kind of going through that like restructuring of like, who am I? Not just like, who am I mentally, right? Because and emotionally, because you're going through that as well, but like, who am I physically? And it's like everything that you've sort of associated to has just been stripped clean. Like, you're a clean slate, like everything's gone. And I really wanted to like put myself back together, but I couldn't because I couldn't dress myself. And that was the way I expressed myself. And this problem just began to compound and compound and compound. And I joke and I laugh that I woke up in the middle of the night with a hot flash, but I like literally woke up in the middle of the night with a hot flash because of all of the medications. And it was like, it just hit me. I was like, wow, like, this is what is so wrong in my life right now. Like, I was expecting to lose my hair. I was expecting to look like a sick person. I never expected that my underwear drawer was going to be a problem. And because of that, because of like putting all those pieces together, waking up, I was like, I can do this. I can design better bras. I've always wanted my own fashion business. And, I'm kind of crazy enough to try it. So that was really where it all kicked off. And I knew the reason why I say it's unfair, because I knew that no matter what, I was going to make bras for people like me. If it meant coming home after my career and my day job and sitting at a sewing machine and like filling orders on Etsy, that's what I was going to do. I was going to help other people like myself. It just went bigger much faster than I had ever imagined it to. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, I think I'm in a business. I think I have a business.
I have a brand. Yeah, that's amazing. Because I can completely see one way that it could go, that it's just like you do something for the community. You're not trying to make a profit, you're not trying to make a brand, you're just trying to help people who are going through the same thing because you have a talent that you can share with the world. But it really clicked. The world really needed it, and it's turned into a movement. It's snowballed. Can you tell me where the name Ana Ono came from for your brand?
Well, I love it when people ask, because I like to just say it's a version of me, Dana Donofree, without the double D's. Ow.
It's just, yes. That's, yeah. So I'd love to hear how being in fashion, working for other brands prepared you or didn't prepare you. Like, how did you learn on the job, and what were the surprises?
Wow. What haven't I learned on the job? First of all, what a great saying for a founder, right? Like, I think that we're learning every day on the job, especially if it's your first business. Like, there is no real true like guide for us to get through. Like, what are the actual real like daily and life challenges when you're creating something from scratch? And I was incredibly fortunate that in my career, I was also very much driven and attracted to very entrepreneurial driven companies. So I worked in a lot of like small house, small private label, small business, groups where I was able to just, have exposure to so many different levels of what running a business was. And my mom gave me some of the best advice I think I had ever really received in my life. And one of those was just like, be a sponge. Wherever you go, absorb as much as you can from those around you, because she always she'll tell me now, she goes, you were always going to have your own business. And I knew that about you. And she was just trying to coach me into like discovering that for myself. And that really, that really stood true throughout my entire career. I was always raising my hand saying, hey, can I help you do something? Like, if I ever had free time or I had my tasks done, I'd go to my colleagues and say, hey, what do you need help with? Because they were doing things I wasn't doing. And I wanted to see like, well, what are you working on? How can I help you? How can I interject? Like, from really kind of all levels and facets, from finance to sales to merchandising to design to development. So I really am an insanely curious person, which I also think helps, because when you say like learning on the job, when I launched Ana Ono in 2010, like, we were not really internet shopping quite yet. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was just on the verge of like starting to discover like things on the internet, So like, by the time, fast forward from like ideation to launch, like, there was no guidebook for e-commerce. It just like didn't even exist yet. It wasn't even an industry. And like, some people say that we were actually the first mastectomy bra to be sold on the internet, believe it or not. So it's just like, it's wild to think like 10 years ago, this wasn't even an accessible product to these patients and to this community.
Yeah.
And because e-commerce was so new, I had to teach myself everything, every single facet of my business that I run today. Like, I went to school on the internet for my internet business, because people weren't thinking about e-commerce. It just wasn't there. You couldn't find a mentor. You couldn't find connections. You couldn't find other store owners. It was like the wild, wild west. So I'm grateful that I had that experience. And I had that understanding, as I was creating my business, because now e-commerce has evolved so much in a decade. So,
Mm-hmm.
and, the surprises along the way are, I mean, this is a little bit dark, but like, I used to tell people that cancer was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Mhm.
I now say that running my business is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I say that because like you got to be in it. Like you got to be in it 110% of the time. And you have to believe in it because if you only do it half, it's not going to go anywhere. It can't because it takes too much time, too much attention.
Yeah, you said earlier that you were crazy enough to do this, and I agree. As a fellow entrepreneur, it's a special type of crazy. It's a good type of crazy, but it is not for everybody. It's not even for 1% of people, I don't think, because you really have to believe in yourself and your idea at your core and be unshakable to get through all of the get through all of the obstacles that come up, especially like you say in uncharted territory. Being one of the first e-commerce brands in your space, there's no playbook. There's no path that you can walk down that other people have been down before you. So kudos to you having a mission, knowing
Yeah.
that the world needed something and being willing to take that on and just having that in your DNA. Your mom knew you would always be an entrepreneur and you found a calling that really mattered, that matters to many, many people too. So, since the founding, the business has grown so much. You've done collaborations with Third Love and Victoria's Secret, I know. Can
Mhm.
you tell me more about some of the growth that you've experienced?
My personal and professional goal is that no breast cancer patient should ever cry in a dressing room ever again. So making sure that these bras, adaptive bras, chest inclusive bras are available at wherever you shop has really truly
Mm-hmm.
been my mission because I think one of the most impactful parts of my life was going into all of these stores that I had shopped before I had to have breast reconstruction and just not understanding why I was now alienated in the intimates department and not capable of shopping where I used to shop. Um, I, had to go down to the quote unquote mastectomy boutique and like get delivered like an armful of grandma bras because that was all they had at that time. It was just this moment where I realized like first of all, there's always industry, right? Industry is always going to exist and there's always going to be a point of view from the industry. But then secondarily to that is just like access, right? So like when I first started off, I used to joke that I'm like shaming people into carrying these products because it's important and you need
Yeah.
to, you know? I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
shame anybody into it anymore, but it takes guts, right? It takes a point of view and a perspective to say, if I am here to support a clientele that wants to wear bras, having a mastectomy bra is a part of that support because we know, breast cancer, first of all, has no boundaries. Anybody, male, female, non binary, can be touched by breast cancer. And, but for those of us that are looking for traditional bras to wear on these bodies that have breasts, don't have breasts, might have one breast using prosthetics, like you had mentioned, it's the accessibility of being seen, right? When you see, you can believe. So if we have 1 in 8 women getting diagnosed with breast cancer, that's nearly 4 million people living in our country alone that have faced some version of surgery based upon their treatment path through this disease. That's not nobody. That's a
That
nice big chunk of us. And we want to just be a part of who we were before, right? Just because we went through all of these surgeries doesn't mean we're any less than what we were before our cancer diagnosis came into our lives.
And for you, you have been a fashion lover and a creative and a designer your whole life. So tell me about how you get inspired and what goes into the designs.
So this is such a fun question because I get inspired every day by our community. I feel so, 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 so grateful that um, our community loves to have their voice and loves to share their feedback. The good, the bad, and the ugly. That's another thing. You got to be prepared for people telling you what they think about your business, about your products, about everything when you start a business. So like you have got to grow some thick skin because, some things hurt, and some things can come at you where, you have to understand that like you're putting yourself out there in such a vulnerable position, right? Our community loves to share. And that's really what inspires me to develop new solutions for new problems, right? Like, I think that when I created Ana Ono, I really paid attention to the parts and pieces of my life that were the most disruptive. And as I started to fill those gaps in my recovery process, the post-operative process, like having a bra that could hold your drains after your surgery, like rather than the recommended Home Depot tool belt.
Oh, you've
Literally.
got to be kidding.
Literally.
That's what the hospitals or the nurses or doctors are recommending, a tool belt from Home Depot.
Yeah. Yeah. So just, go get a tool belt, you'll be fine. Just hold the drains. And I was like, that's not fine. That's not okay.
No.
And to people, that are having like skin sensitivities from scarring, from, surgery recovery through radiation therapy. It's like everything. There's so much nerve damage sometimes during this process. Like in essence, when you have a full mastectomy surgery, you lose most sensation and feeling in your chest. So you really can't feel a whole lot. But what happens to some people, even though we're making advancements, there's some resensation opportunities and things like that now for surgery. But when you do feel, like some people's nerve endings are like just on fire. So like everything has to like touch and feel so gentle and so soft and so supportive, like all at the same time, which was like not what traditional bras typically do. I don't think that there's like very few humans that are like, I love wearing my bra 24 hours a day. This is great. I really had to think of like all of these sensitivities from, beginning to end. And then, how do you go about entering into like your intimate relationships with somebody when you just feel completely mutilated, right? Like body dysmorphia and body image is a huge challenge for many, many people in this community, myself included. And I kept saying, how can I love somebody else if I can't even love myself or look at myself in the mirror? And how do we get over that? It's like thinking about like, yeah, like you do want to feel sexy. You do want to feel pretty. You do want to feel beautiful with or without nipples, right? With or without breasts, because that's not what defines our sexuality, right? The way we express ourselves do. And I really wanted to make sure that as I was kind of unearthing all of this, and it might be, my experience is very different than somebody else who doesn't have any breasts, right? So like, how do I create an intimate place in a moment for somebody with no breasts at all, as I do with somebody who has two breasts or has one breast? So it's like sharing in these stories and getting these, bits and pieces and these nuggets from my community, like really help inspire me to take the design to the next level, to offer out a new collection, to, create a new post-operative solution. Whatever that thing may be is like really what drives me forward to continue to create.
So like you said, traditional lingerie is using materials that are not that comfortable sometimes, like polyester lace and stuff like that. Are the fabrics that you're using a key part of the comfort?
100%. Like there's like little tweaks and changes I made to like designs, but overall it was like something that was really important to me was that I had some version of a natural fiber as well, because like when you're a cancer patient, you think of everything from head to toe, and it's got to all restart. It's your food, it's your beauty products, it's your clothing, like you become very, very aware of like the toxins that are in our everyday environment, because it's probably what's giving us cancer in the first place. So you want to really be able to like strip these things out of your lifestyle. And something that was really important to me was the textile. I mean, we know fashion is already dirty. Like we know this. The industry itself is really trying to clean it up. We're not going to get there overnight. This is decades upon decades of practices that have to be reinvented. But as we push that bar forward and we push that bar higher, there's a lot of opportunity in between those two spaces to be responsible. I scoured the globe for our material, which is made out of a beech tree. And every beech tree that's harvested, one is planted in its place. It's got a really amazing processing style. So, there's no chemicals and issues inside of our material. And then too, like with lace, using a rayon or a nylon is better than using a polyester. And so I really make sure that I'm thinking about the textiles. How soft are they? If they don't pass a softness test, it's not going to work for my community. They're just too sensitive. And, you know, the intimates industry will use very, very cheap materials, very, very cheap materials. And so, you know, they're scratchy, they're polyester. Polyester holds in our body heat. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have to, like, we're having hot flashes, we're evolving, you know, like you might be nursing a baby. Like, there are so many things that happen to our chest wall that, like, wearing a hot, sticky polyester bra just like actually doesn't even make any sense. But it's cheap, so people use it, you know?
Right. I'm really into natural fibers personally, and I think it's so strange that polyester seems to be the fabric of choice for active wear
Mhm.
when it holds odors and it's also, you know, releasing microplastics into our water, which is an issue for me as well. So I'm like you, I'm looking at natural versions of that. So the beech wood or is that lyocell? What is lyocell?
So there is a version of lyocell, there's modal. There are several different processes that can be harvested from a beech tree. You have to work with a certified farm. If you don't, you're just hurting the earth, right? I came into this world both from an industry perspective, but also coming into e-com, that just doing good was going to be good for business. You know, we didn't need like a hook that said, okay, buy our cotton t-shirt, we'll plant a tree. Okay, that's great. But how are you making that cotton t-shirt? You know, are you using the right factories? Are you, you know, are your people protected? Do they have the right requirements at the factories? Are they being cared for? Do you have human rights? You know, it's, we were for a while taking these sustainability movements and like really kind of overshadowing the darkness that still laid behind it. So through
Mm.
and through in our supply chain, we look at every single piece. You know, we're working with factories that are trying to get to 0% landfill status. They're recycling their waters to water their gardens and, you know, keep the campus beautiful for their employees, so their employees are proud to be at work. You know, it's like, it's just, these things matter, and all we need to do is put a little effort into them and we can actually achieve it. You know, but the consumer also has to understand the value. You know, when you work like that, it's not as cheap as working the other way. So we all have to be in this together to really make an impact, because if we keep buying and selling fast fashion, we're not really helping anything.
Agreed. Can you tell me how people discover Ana Ono? Like you said, you have to rebuild your life, reevaluate everything. How do they come upon your brand?
Yeah. You know, even as an emerging small business, right, we're still always working on like getting to our patients when they need us the most, right? And getting to our
Mhm.
community when they need us the most. So my goal truly is to help the patient get through their entire process through breast cancer without ever having to feel any of the feelings that I felt while I was going through my recovery. So we really work hard to get to the patient at point of surgery, because again, if I can avoid that person not crying in a fitting room because no bras fit their body, like, to me, I have won. Like, that is the game. So we do a lot of effort in like outreach with nonprofits and organizations and with surgeons and hospitals and things like that to really say, hey, like, let us help you, because we really believe that if you feel good, you're going to heal better. You shouldn't
I think
have to
that's,
worry about that. Yeah. Yeah. You have
yeah,
to be
we're,
yourself in a mindset that like allows you to say, you know, if you're like sitting in this post-operative bra and it's causing abrasions up against your chest and around your stomach and you're getting red marks, like, you're going to think of that rather than like putting all of your energy into the healing process. And we shouldn't have to be there. We've dealt with enough.
absolutely. We need to allow women to feel that they can survive this and their life isn't destroyed, that they can feel beautiful and feminine if they want to, and they can go on, they can get dressed. They, you know, if you read books about personal style, a lot of them say your undergarments are the foundation of a great outfit. So I can completely imagine how not being able to find a suitable undergarment that also doesn't irritate you could really just throw off everything for you. Feeling uncomfortable throughout the day and feeling like or feeling inappropriately dressed is very uncomfortable. So I can see how finding a beautiful bra that just alleviates all of that can be a very healing experience and make you feel so seen as well. And are you currently wearing an Ana Ono piece right now?
Oh my God. Well, so yes, of course. I only wear my bras, like no surprise. But I do fit test every single bra I make. If I cannot wear it from the moment I woke up throughout the entire night and into the next day, it does not make it into my collection. That is like literally like the hardest wear test to ever pass. If I'm like scrunching and pulling myself, I'm like, she's got to go. She's not going to make it. But yes, this is our boob jacket. If you could see all of our little lovely chest inclusive bits and pieces. But I always love wearing this, especially when I'm traveling, because like people come up to me and they're like, is that hieroglyphics? And I'm like,
oh.
No, it's boobs. Yes, and I'll give you my little peek. This is my favorite, which PS, by the way, anybody can wear our bras. You do not have to have breast cancer to wear any of my designs. They are designed, people that have lumpectomies, people that are facing discomfort, shoulder surgeries, just want something soft and sustainable as an undergarment. Like I have designed for the most uncomfortable people in the world. So we only all reap the benefits of that, really. But this is my Naya bra, and she's like nothing, but she is a piece of magic that is got like this sexy little crisscross back. It's just like so comfortable. I mean, I can wear the Naya bra for like 3 or 4 days in a row. It's like, it's so bad, but I'm like totally obsessed with it. So that's what I'm wearing today.
That's saying a lot. Yeah. I looked on your Instagram and I saw this gorgeous picture. Well, it was a video of you with your tattoos on your reconstructed breasts. And you could tell that you are a fashion designer by that because it looks like a little demi bra, sort of. And it's just so gorgeous. I love how you turned your own body into a work of art and your journey into something beautiful for not just yourself, but for so many people.
Well, I love that you saw that because that was actually like my first pathway into like the discovery of Ana Ono was like, I was so desperate to find a bra that fit my body and I could not do it. And therefore, like I was having very difficult intimacy issues with my fiance because I was like, what are these scars? Like, I can't even show it to him. And like, you only look so sexy in a sports bra for so long. And that was the lengths I took because I couldn't find a bra, was to do this incredible like tree of life tattoo around my chest in the shape of a demi bra. So I could like visually see myself in the mirror the way I wanted to be seen. And even when I did that mastectomy tattoo, like mastectomy tattoos were not a conversation. They were not even out and about. We had one body that was on the internet, was like a Celtic like vest sort of like tattoo, but on a flat chest, not on a reconstructed chest. And I scoured interviewing all of the tattoo artists to say like, what was the freakiest thing you've ever tattooed? And then they would tell me, and I was like, so I have this body. I'd have to tell them about my mastectomy surgery and my reconstruction to find out if somebody was comfortable enough to do the tattoo on me. And eventually I found my artist Del Shea in Denver, Colorado, and he was just awesome. Just awesome.
That's so amazing. Yeah, this as kind of an aside, when I was a really young graphic designer, I have a design background as well in graphics, and I used to volunteer with an organization as the graphic designer, and we would do a monthly fundraiser, and one month's fundraiser was to create a little fund basically for women to get tattoos of nipples on their reconstructed breasts. And I think that was like, completely eye-opening for everybody involved on the team that this is a need. Mm-hmm. And also to like consider how important to your identity, I guess, as a woman, especially having a nipple or a lack thereof really is.
Oh yeah. It's like, it's a place for your eye to settle, right? Like you don't even realize what these things mean to you until you don't have them anymore. And that was what led me to actually getting my first mastectomy. Well, not my first, my only mastectomy tattoo was when my doctor said, well, we'll tattoo on a nipple. And I was like, excuse me, you'll do what? And at this point in time during surgery, or like the nurses did the nipples, and it was like a red line for your nipple. And then it was a red line for your areola. And it was pretty much like, you might as well just consider that it. And I was like, no. I was like, so you're telling me though I can tattoo on my chest? I said, so, and then I was like, well, is the nipple going to do anything for me? They're like, well, no, it's a tattoo. And I'm like, okay. So I kind of took that away. I was like, well, if you can tattoo on a nipple, I think I can tattoo on whatever I want.
Yeah.
And when I went to my plastic surgeon, his jaw hit the floor because it had not been done before. And he looked at me and he goes, what did you do? I said, well, you said I could get nipples tattooed. So he's like, well, yes, I did. But oh man, nipple tattooing has come so far. I mean, these 3D nipple tattoos are impressive. They are so cool. I just didn't have access to that when I was diagnosed. And I think it's such a beautiful thing. And even, through Ana Ono, we're also like expanding. We have nipple prosthetics on our website that's designed by another breast cancer survivor. She hand makes them. They look like real nipples. They are real. And it's so interesting when I put them on, just how differently I feel. And I don't even have words to explain it, but it's just like these little pieces of you that are taken away that you can kind of put together over space and time when you're ready. And we want to be there as a part of that for our community as well.
That's so beautiful. So now, has your tattoo inspired other tattoos in your community? Have you gotten feedback from other people on the ways that they're like taking it into an artistic expression?
I hope so. I mean, I had started my business, and I had a PR team, and it was really funny because she said, well, what other stories do I have? And I said, I got these pictures taken as a part of like my bio pictures. They're really just for me, but I don't know. Here's some pictures of my mastectomy tattoo. I sent them out to my PR team. We went viral overnight. It was insanity. All of the articles that were getting posted about my mastectomy tattoo, like I was literally told, do not read the comments. People were so disgusting and disturbing, even back then on the internet. So like, there's always been trolls, right? But like back then, when people really thought they were anonymous, they were just, humanity's ugly side will always come out in this world. And people were making comments like, you almost died. Why would you do this? Tattoos will kill you. Why would you do this to your body? You're disgusting. And I'm like, did you not read the article that like I had breast cancer at 27 years old? This is what breast cancer looks like. Like to my point earlier, this is what it looks like. So be informed, get educated, understand what we're going through. Well, so figure that was in like 2015. Fast forward to last year, and one of my tattoo photos was in Reader's Digest. We go from this point of like absolute disgust and like confusion and misunderstanding to like Reader's Digest, probably like the safest, most generic, like conservative platform ever, like posting mastectomy tattoos. So I'd like to think I had something to do with that.
I really think you have. I don't think that you underestimate your influence. You are an entrepreneur and an artist and an influencer for changing the culture and shifting the conversation. It's so important. I think that the world for breast cancer survivors will never be the same because of what you're doing on a lot of different fronts. So, keep breaking stigmas and doing weird things. I think that that's what you've been called to do. So do it.
I love that. I will not have so many excuses. I'll be like, well, they said I could do weird things. So here I am. I love it.
Because you're not the only one, with an inner freak or whatever. It's people need to see themselves mirrored out there in the outer world to feel okay, that they are okay on the inside. So I think that's really important.
For sure.
So now that you're about to hit 10 years, what is the next 10 years going to bring? What are some of your hopes and dreams and projections and things you want to manifest?
If I had my dreams of all dreams in 10 years, we should no longer be needed. I really, truly hope that we can treat this disease without removing a sexual organ from a person's body. I think that is our biggest misstep in treating this disease, is that our first step is to remove the breast. And I believe we're going to get there. I really, really believe that we can have an opportunity to see a world where we don't have to amputate a breast to save a life. I think we will. I would love to see it in 10, but if we see it in 20, we're still winning, So I am pushing hardcore for that to move forward. But in reality, there will still be many, many, many of us alive and wanting to live our lives fully and feel supported. And I think that the opportunity for Ana Ono, as we think about what does the future look like for us and for our business, the continuation of the white space to serve this customer and this community is still so vast. And I know I have so much development ahead of me to really ensure that that pathway through patient is really, truly seamless, right? And that somebody should not feel their life afflicted in the ways that I felt my life afflicted 14 years ago when I got diagnosed. I love to say that people don't know what they don't know. And I hope what they don't ever know is that bras don't fit their bodies, right? Like they just find Ana Ono the second they're diagnosed, or they go through their surgery, preventative or reconstruction or flat, and they're just like, oh, these are the people that I know are there to support me, and I got it. I'm on the journey, I'm on the path, and I'm going to be supported all the way through without too much complication, And that's and then too, wherever you've walked in to buy a bra before breast cancer, you have a bra for breast cancer afterwards. It's just our reality. Breast cancer is the leading cause in death of women. It surpassed lung cancer. And we need to get better, but there's also so many people getting diagnosed that we also need to directly look at the disease, the epidemic at hand here, and understand, how do we intervene? How do we treat? How do we get earlier diagnoses? And how do we survive? That's really, truly, the impact that I hope I can make personally, but also through Ana Ono and obviously, through the entire community as a whole.
And on that note, do you, as a survivor and someone who knows thousands of other survivors, do you have any tips for women who breast cancer is not on their radar? Anything that we should be thinking about? Is it doing the monthly exams? Are there any other things that we need to start integrating into our lives?
I really believe if you can be as health and wellness conscious as possible, we know that we cannot be perfect, right? It's like evolving your skincare to make sure you're using clean ingredients. And that's like your skin organ is your number one absorber. It's got to have good quality, mindful products, right? Trying to eat as best as you can, trying to reduce your stress. I feel like my advice to especially, really any young woman is that I got diagnosed at 27 years old. I understood my grandmother in that moment. And the reason being is because time is taxing. And I understand when my grandmother sat on her chair and drank a glass of wild turkey at the end of the day, because she just needed to chill. And I feel like I got the gift of that wiser insight very, very early on in my life as an adult. To experience something so traumatic at such a young age, it forced me to look at all of these different facets of my life and have a cleanse. Like, I don't do anything if it does not bring me joy. That is the way I monitor my stress, right? Life is stressful. Stress will not go away. But if I put harmful things on me, in me, around me, I will not be happy, And if I'm not happy, I will be more stressed. And stress is a huge compound to, how disease progresses in our bodies and in our systems. So I encourage anybody out there to be mindful of their health and their wellness as much as they can. We cannot be perfect. Don't strive to be perfect, because that will stress you out. And secondly, know your body, make sure that you're going for your follow-ups. make sure you're checking your chest, because self-detection, even though we have regulations and people telling us it doesn't matter, it matters. It saved my life. And
yes,
that's the reality. So if you know your body, and when something like a tiny little lump sticks out to you, then you call the doctor and you go through every single step that you have to, because most of the time it's not anything, but when it is, it can be something.
that's great advice. That's really great advice. And I think as a survivor, you probably have a lot of different perspective on time and mortality and assessing, does this belong in my life or not? Because this is your life. You fought to keep your life, and it belongs to you and only you. This is our chance. This is our time on earth. Make it what you are going to feel at the end of your life has been a fulfilling experience, that you can feel good about the way that you spent your time and your energy.
Yeah, for sure. I love that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, and congratulations on 10 years as a fellow entrepreneur. I know that it's like running a marathon every single day. It does not stop. So keep up the good fight, and thank you for what you're doing for women.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me.